Welcome to another of our GST titled Philosophy and Logic. This material is from National Open University of Nigeria. My name is Dan Asukwo, your instructor. Are you writing any of the GSTs soon, or you want to improve your knowledge on philosophy and logic? If so, let us know on the comment section so that we can help you out. If you are a noun student or from any other universities, this will be very useful for you. Please do well to share it with others as well as on your study groups. If this is your first time of coming across our videos, why not do well to subscribe, like, comment, and share for others too to benefit. Unit 5, Language and its Functions, 1.0, Introduction. This study unit will introduces you to the definition and function of language. It will also teach you some models of linguistic analysis. 2.0, Intended Learning Outcomes. By the end of this unit, you will be able to analyze the functions of language, evaluate some models of linguistic analysis. 2.0, Main Content. 3.0, Logic and Language. Generally, you need to understand that the definition of logic as the science of laws of thought imply a mutual relationship between logic and language. This position is informed by the fact that processes of thought rely on logic to thrive, and language, on the other hand, is better understood when logical processes are applied to remove ambiguity, vagueness, and enhance clarity of thought on one hand, and the use of language on the other hand. The dependency of logic and language on each other is reciprocal, as thought is believed to be prior to language, but its thought process is made possible through embodying itself in language. This has made language to be vital to the development of logic. In other words, the mastery of language enhances logical discussions, as evident in the philosophies of the Sophists, Plato, Aristotle, etc. It is important for you to note that logic is concerned with different forms of expression in language, but only insofar as they embody differences of type in the process of thinking. This position is further stressed by Uduma, that since logic considers language essentially as an instrument of thinking, its aim is to handle the instrument so as to make it a help, and not a hindrance to correct thinking. Uduma, 2015. Aside from what we have said above about logic and its connection with language, it is equally important for you to know that as a primary tool of reason, language enhances the description and organization of human, numerous experiences, and make them to access the experience of other people. The human capability for language does not only distinguish them from other animals, it also gives them logical ability. Therefore, it is through the possession of language by human beings that their thought and conduct are made possible. Also, their possession of language enables them to organize their experiences systematically and produce valid inferences because with language they are well equipped with logical ability. Perhaps one should make you to understand that language is a social product. Its most obvious function, therefore, goes beyond the provision of a framework for thought, but also to serve as means of communicating, and gives thought meaning. However, this position should not be taken to mean that without language, thoughts cannot be meaningful. Rather, language has simply been presented as a necessity in society for the proper conveyance of human thought. In short, the relevance of language underpins its facilitation of intelligent cooperation in all human endeavor and the enhancement of civilization in human society. 3.1. Functions of language. As an important aspect of human culture, language has unlimited functions. This view is corroborated by Wittgenstein, a philosopher of language, in his work Tractatus, see Uduma, 2015. Some of the uses of language he gave includes giving orders and obeying them, describing the appearance of an object or giving its measurement, constructing an object from a description, and many others. From Wittgenstein's point of view, the functions of language have been classified into three headings, that is, informative, expressive, and evocative. We shall discuss each of these functions one after the other. 3.2. Informative function. Here, the sole purpose of language is to communicate information. Language states fact, that is, it gives information about fact. When language is used to describe the state of affair about a thing, event, or situation, either it affirms or denies the affair. Language is said to be performing the informative function. Accordingly, Science could be a good example of the informative function of language because it deals with what is factual. Thus, the following example: politics is a game. Nigeria is a country states nothing else but facts as information has been given about politics and Nigeria. You should understand that information could be in form of a proposition or an argument. The information above can either be true or false, in which case we shall be talking about true and false proposition. It could also be a misinformation, and when it is considered in the realm of argument, we shall be talking about correct and incorrect argument. However, irrespective of the status of the information, that is whether true, correct, or otherwise, what is paramount is that it gives an information, and the informative function of language is concerned with the truth value of the proposition. Therefore, the informative function of language is important to logic. 3.3. Expressive function. Here, the sole purpose of language is to report feelings or attitudes of a person, writer, and speaker, or to evoke feelings in the reader or listener. Thus, the expressive function of language is not about factual report of a state of affair, but with expression of some sort of emotion. Language, therefore, performs the expressive function whenever it is used to arouse feelings or emotions which could be approval or disapproval. Uduma, 2015. For instance, the common reference to black African man as niggers by the Westerners always arouse an emotion of disapproval, unlike when they are referred to as black man, which often elicits some emotion of approval. The expressive function of language is commonly used in political and religious discourses, warfare, science, etc., and best example of the expressive use of language is found in poetry. Consider the lines of this song from a soloist. Amazing grace, how sweet it sound, that save a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. The above is not an information but an expression of a feeling of an unmerited favor. From the above, it can be pointed out to you that the expressive function of language reveals the internal state of mind of a person, feelings and attitude and emotions. It is the kind of language function that is sometimes referred to as emotional language function. It is either it evokes certain feelings or it expresses feelings, and it can both evoke and express feelings. 3.4. Directive function. This function of language is also known as evocative function. It is to cause or prevent an overt action. The utterance in a directive function of language operate as to evoke action from the hearer. The sense in which the word evoke has been used here is broader than in the expressive function of language. Here the word evoke means to provoke or cause an overt action, to produce an action. This use is not the same as we have in the expressive function where the word evoke means to excite emotions or feelings, that is to cause, to express a feeling, an emotion, or an attitude. The sole purpose of language under directive function is to produce action. Thus, when a father tells his child, "Go and clean the floor," the intention is not to communicate any information, nor is it to express or evoke any emotion or feeling. It is intended to produce action, and that is for the child to clean the floor. Another example is when a policeman orders a person, "Go and park there." We need to note here that directive function of language can be understood from three angles of a command: request and interrogation. The first two examples can be treated as commands. However, it can be changed to a request when a subtle means is introduced. For instance, when the word please is added, it becomes a request. For example, "Please go and park there," direct. The third sense, which interrogative, is usually in form of questions. For example, "Where were you?" This is a directive requesting an answer. You need to know that directive function of language does not any form of investigation on its truth value. This is because a command like "get out" can neither be true nor false. But then, a directive function of language may be definite, confused, either obeyed or disregarded in its command sense. It may be untimely, unauthorized, obliged, or unexpected. Furthermore, in both the request and command sense, it may be specific, reasonable, genuine, improper, and sham, unspecific and proper. 3.5. Mixed functions of language. This function of language is arrived at because it is observed that discourse can serve more than one function. In fact, most ordinary discourse are mixed, and aside this, effective communication demand and are made possible by combinations of different functions of language. When we give information to a group of trainees on the meaning of a concept, such that the information is describing certain phenomena or procedure prescribing or explaining the application of certain rules or terms, the information may also express and evoke sentiments or feelings. Such information is therefore serving the expressive function, and may also seek to cause certain appropriate actions from the group. When we also consider sermons that are preached, generally, sermons are directive and are meant to shape or turn the hearers to a particular way of life as contained in it, sermon, and possibly to avoid an unacceptable lifestyle. It is also may evoke feelings of awesomeness or admiration in the hearers, thus serving the expressive function, and may also include some information about historical events or other variable phenomena. An example of such sermon was Stephen's address before the Sanhedrin, Acts of the Apostles chapter 7. It is therefore possible for language to serve multiple functions, but this not to say that the specific roles of language in certain discourses are valueless or less important. While in a discourse like biology, it is informative. In literary works, it is expressive, but in logic, it is directive. Language also serves as directive in law, that is, to direct conduct. 3.6. Performative utterances. This use of language is generally associated with a mixed function of language and sometimes with the informative function of language. As the name suggests, performative utterances refer to language which performs the action it reports. It is a different form of function of language. The term was first introduced by J.L. Austin in 1955. It includes such statements like, "I promise to visit you tomorrow," "I shall contest the next election," etc. These utterances do not describe or report anything, hence they cannot be true or false. Each of them only constitutes doing something. Visit you tomorrow, contest the next election. These sorts of utterances only involve doing, they cannot be true or false. But Austin maintained that they can be infelicitous, that is, abused. According to Uduma, 2015, the abuse of these utterances, however, depends largely on the motive, circumstances, or conditions surrounding the utterances. For instance, the promise to visit may be made from insincerity, or I may not be qualifying to context any election. The main characteristics of performative utterances that attract philosophical interest are as follows. 1. It offers counter-instance to the verification's claim that only meaningful sentences are those which express true or false statements. 2. It belongs to the category of non-descriptive sentences. They are neither true nor false, but only felicitous or infelicitous. 3. It can do justice to the communicative and intentional aspects of language. The main thrust of performative function of language is that stating is performing, saying is doing. When uttered in appropriate circumstances, they perform the act it appears to report or describe. They are tied in special ways to the circumstances in which they are uttered. And this is what doing justice to the communicative and intentional aspect of language means. 4.0. Conclusion. From the study of the functions of language in this unit, the various functions of language seem to correlate with the different forms of language. Thus, the declarative sentences appear to be informative, the imperatives are directive, interrogatives are directive, and the exclamations are expressive. It may therefore be somehow difficult to identify form with function in language. 5.0. Summary. To get the best of this unit, you may need to repay it again. Also drop a comment on the comment section stating the important lesson learnt.